A massive security presence is in place in Washington ahead of President-elect Biden's inauguration. 25,000 National Guard troops are currently surrounding the U.S. Capitol. The FBI is in the process of vetting all of them, and they've already dismissed several for questionable behavior. CBS News Chief Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues has the latest.
The two removed Guard members raises concern over possible insider threats. The Pentagon confirms that one of the possible extremist links came from a tip call. The other reported by soldiers in the unit.
Out of an abundance of caution, we automatically pull those personnel off the line and make sure that they're not part of the mission set.
10 other members were removed for non-national security background flags by the FBI, which is vetting all 25,000 National Guard troops assigned to D.C. They have been deputized and are now armed, guarding entrances and manning checkpoints throughout the city. CBS News has learned an FBI warning about extremists connected to the conspiracy theorist group QAnon have talked about posing as National Guard members to get closer to the event. Since the January 6th attack on the Capitol, investigators have charged more than 100 people with federal crimes. Today, the acting attorney general said the past 2 weeks have yielded nearly 200,000 tips about people who were part of the mob.
We have seen friends, family members, coworkers, and others reporting information to us.
Every single in there is a traitor.
Today, for the first time, conspiracy charges against 65-year-old Thomas Caldwell. Investigators say he is a leader of the anti-government group the Oath Keepers and was involved in the planning and coordination of the attack. Prosecutors point to this video and say Caldwell was part of this group of Oath Keepers moving through the crowd on January 6th.
We're the first wave, man.
Part of the first wave that made it through the Capitol doors. Inside, prosecutors say he received posts saying, "Tom, take that expletive over. And all members are in the tunnels under Capitol. Seal them in. Turn on gas."
I think the indictments today particularly show that federal authorities are focused on the insurrection leadership and also on organizations like the Oath Keepers who are seeking to recruit current and former military and law enforcement.
Authorities say they actually have recordings of the Oath Keepers communicating during that siege, talking about making citizens' arrests for treason and election fraud. Also arrested Riley Williams. Remember, she was accused of taking a laptop from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office. Williams was actually turned in by a former romantic partner. Elaine.
Jeff Pegues, thank you. For more on this, let's bring in Frank Figliuzzi. He was the Assistant Director for Counterintelligence at the FBI during the Obama administration. Frank, thanks very much for being with us. As we heard, several National Guard members have been removed from inauguration duty. How much concern is there right now about possible insider threats?
So I'm encouraged that the FBI has taken that step to vet all of these guardsmen. But let's understand something. When you're looking at 25,000 individuals, it's virtually impossible to identify signs of radicalization. What the guardsmen who were relieved of duty today had in their background were a combination of criminal backgrounds and also some suspicious comments that they may have made to others. So as an abundance of caution, they were relieved. However, the true warning signs and indicators of radicalization and violent extremism usually occur on social media postings, and the FBI simply doesn't have the lawful authority, the resources, or the time to look at those.
Yeah, tell us more about that, Frank, because when you hear about the FBI vetting these members, you know, a lot of folks will wonder exactly that, especially at a time when there is still very much an active investigation into what happened on January 6th at the Capitol.
We're looking really at the largest insider threat we've had since the American Civil War. This is an extremist insurgency, and it's not unique to just civilian portions of the population. You see it reflected in military, former and active, and in police departments, former and active officers who were present and found to be present and active inside the Capitol building during the insurrection. So when you're facing that insider threat, it's very, very difficult. And when you're thinking that the people who are serving to protect us around state houses in the country the next several days and weeks, and the possibility that they may also be plotting to harm us, it makes the job of security that much more difficult.
In addition to those groups you mentioned, Frank, what other threats is law enforcement monitoring?
Well, now that we've had a horrible tragedy at our Capitol, ironically, the FBI now has the proper authority and investigative tools to go back in time and look at who organized, who planned. But let's look forward as well. This threat's not going away simply because a certain administration leaves office. It's going to continue in large, fueled by social media. So we're facing a domestic terror threat, and we're facing one without a domestic terrorism law. It is not against the law to be a domestic terrorist, as it is in international terrorism. And that means the FBI doesn't have all the investigative tools to get out in front of it and prevent the next act like they would with international terrorism groups that have been designated as terror organizations.
You know, Frank, I've covered a number of inaugurations, and I'm used to sort of that immediate area around the mall, having those checkpoints and having, you know, heavily fortified kind of areas. But when you look on a map right now of Washington, D.C., a Google map will show so many streets have been shut down, just red everywhere you look. How do the security measures that are right now in effect compare to what we've actually seen in previous years?
Well, the perimeter has been moved out, as you just described, considerably, and it's been hardened considerably. So larger perimeter, harder perimeter, extra precautions and sensitivities. It is a national security special event designated, as have been previous inaugurations. But the extra challenge for this one is that insider threat. It only takes that one person with credentials to sell them or to counterfeit them, or one person to let a barricade open or a fence left unlocked, and we could have a problem.
Chilling prospects to think about. Finally, Frank, you have a new book out called The FBI Way, and it stresses the code of excellence as key for success in any field. Why do you believe this code is more important than ever, especially for law enforcement and leaders in government?
Well, the book is about the intersection of values and leadership, two things that the country needs more than ever on a national level and certainly on a personal, family, team, corporate, and community level. The FBI operates at a high level of excellence when the stakes are the highest, and boy, are they high right now. So the message in the book is you also can learn. You don't need to spend 25 years in the FBI like I did. You can glean how the FBI protects what matters most to the agency and to the country. I've distilled it down into what I call the 7 C's and called the book The FBI Way.
All right, Frank Figliuzzi, certainly a lot of folks very much on edge as we move through this week, but thank you very much for joining us.
You're quite welcome.